We're back. That's right. Finally. I didn't even know there was an ethics committee meeting going on today. But it is very timely because of what is happening in the Hogsett administration. For those who don't know, I've been living under a rock for the last few weeks. This guy, Thomas Cook, used to be the number 2 guy in the Hogsett administration. He is in some deep doo-doo. He was doing a little bit of a sexual harassment. One lady called it grooming. Very fitting coming from the Democrat Party. And he ended up leaving the administration and then working at Bose McKinney Evans. And if anybody out there knows what's going on right now, hilarious. But don't worry, because I will have a video explaining what I mean by that in a few weeks. I don't know. What ethics committee meeting is happening? If for those who forgot too, my favorite counselor right there, Josh Bain, had introduced a proposal so it would be, I think, public record of who works for who. That way, we know when the corruption is happening. So, say that you're working for X place, and that place gets taxpayer money. Kind of weird, right? And let me explain to you why. Ryan Mears had this program, a second chance program for juveniles that would get a free Boys and Girls Club pass. And who happens to be the president of the Boys and Girls Club of Indianapolis? Maggie Lewis. That's right. The chair of the Metropolitan Committee, but she used to be vice president of the council. She's been there for a very long time. Like I have always said, handshakes and hand jobs. She's getting a big push off of taxpayer money, and Ryan Mears is trying to be the saint, even though he's more of a vampire. So let's get this started.
I call to order the Ethics Committee meeting, August 8th, 2024. I would like to have my colleagues introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Councilor Ane, District 22.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Josh Bain, District 21.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Frank Mascari, District 19, Southeast Side.
Thank you for being here. I am Jessica McCormick, District 16, West Side.
At least she's not wearing her sunglasses today.
As a woman in public service, I am both hurt and disgusted by the recent reporting by Indy Star and Mirror Indy regarding the mayor's former chief of staff. Any abuse of power by an employee in any sector is completely unacceptable, and it is deeply troubling to know that this behavior persisted for many years. We must do better. This is the very behavior that women in the workplace fear, and it's time for that fear to end. The Ethics Committee for the City County Council is tasked with addressing complaints and violations involving other counselors, not city or county employees. Matters involving employees fall under the jurisdiction of the Human Resources Department within the City of Indianapolis. As counselor and chair of the Ethics Committee, I am committed to working closely with my colleagues to thoroughly review our current policies and practices, and where necessary, we will amend ordinances to ensure that the same system that failed women in the past does not continue to fail them in the future. Our goal is to create a more just and accountable environment where the rights and dignities of all individuals are respected and upheld. So now let us.
Okay, well, I will have the link on the bottom of what is exactly going on. I will ask Jessica McCormick this, though, her being a married woman. Those two women probably knew that Thomas Cooks was married, right? At any point, did they not think to maybe let his wife know that he was being a little aggressively flirty or having drinks with just them? Not at the same time, of course. Kind of weird, don't you think? I'm just saying. Just saying, all right?
Let's move forward with tonight's agenda. The meeting will focus on a matter my colleagues and I have been diligently working on for the past few months.
Yeah.
The purpose of tonight's meeting is to engage in a discussion regarding the ethics forms that each counselor completes at the beginning of the year. And the aim of tonight's meeting is, the counselor completes at the beginning of the year, and the aim of that form is to prevent any potential conflicts of interest.
Oh. The news is there.
So the meeting tonight, we are meeting in respect of budget season coming up. Since we're not a budget committee, we like to get this discussion completed tonight, so then we can focus our efforts on budget next month. The proposal will be introduced in Monday's agenda. And I will turn it over to my colleague, Councilor Rain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, fellow councilors, we've discussed this before this year, and it's in reference to the ethics disclosure form that we fill out at the beginning of every calendar year. There's some issues that I've noticed.
That's not me, I swear.
With that, and the goal of this proposal that will be introduced is just to make Indianapolis one of the, if not the most transparent councils in the country, really. So the changes that we are making is that counselors will also add their date of hire to the ethics disclosure form. Right now you have the names, addresses, and all that of the companies they work for. It doesn't include date of hire, so we're going to be adding that. And then it's going to add the amount of money that each counselor's employer receives from the city. And when we discussed that previously, it was brought up the fact that, well, not every employer may receive direct funding in the form of a contract. What if an employer has a bunch of tax abatements, or they get a bunch of things written off? So in an effort just to make sure we catch as much as possible, and again, just for the sake of transparency, we are adding, so we're keeping the funds in there. We are also adding it to include things such as tax abatements, pilot programs, and then also stocks the counselors may or may not be invested in. Example of where that could be important, I haven't heard of any instance of this happening, but let's say a counselor catches wind of a developer that's going to be doing a partnership with the city, and counselor finds out about it a month ahead of time, invests a bunch of money in that company. We want to make sure that is something that would be discouraged. So we're adding that.
To go back to what he was talking about before, some McCormick had brought this up, like she works for some college, but the city, and she works at a department at a college. Now, the college might get money from the city, but it might not be at her department that she's working in. So just to clarify that.
And we are also adding the fact that it may sometimes be difficult to figure out what that exact dollar amount is, if it's something like a tax abatement or an incentive of some kind. So we're also adding that if it's a little ambiguous about what the exact dollar amount is, you still have to disclose the fact that something like that is happening. And then lastly, we know that some of us work for some very large employers, and it may not have anything to do with our role on the council, but there may be some branch of some department that does something with the city that you have nothing to do with, and it may just be really complicated. So council staff, if a counselor requests, can provide that counselor with a form to submit to their HR department at their employer to have them fill it out. And then lastly, what I think the most important part of this is the fact that ethics disclosure forms would be placed online. Right now, the proposal says by March 1st, us counselors have to fill it out by February 1st. So the proposal would say it would have to be uploaded by March 1st, so it gives the council staff a month to get it online. We may or may not change that to the end of March just to fall in line with quarterly reporting. But that is it in a nutshell. Right now the current ethics disclosure forms we fill out, I think they're pretty vague. And if a member of the public wants to see it, you basically have to submit a public records request to get it. Something that I think is a hindrance. So the fact that we are making it publicly available online for anyone to see, I view as a step in the right direction.
That is so awesome. Because I've talked about this before. I had to send in 3 FOIA requests to get the voting information for my city council district last year. Very annoying having to constantly go downtown, have to pay parking 3 different times so I can get something that everybody should be able to get to.
And so happy to take any questions, or if any other counselors have anything they want to add.
2 points, and the ethics disclosure at one point had been online and available easy. So we thought that maybe going back to that would be a good instance. So again, this is the transparency that I think that we all should hold our elected officials and leaders to, and so this just adds to that. And the reason, and again, I want to reiterate, so our meeting tonight, this is a committee of 6, and so for us to have any discussion offline is 2.5 of us. So really, right? So that's why we need to meet in public, is because we can't have, we need to have productive discussion on this. In this
Jolly
forum.
Rancher.
Councilor Mascari.
Thank you. My real only issue is stocks. The State House, do they have to divulge all the stocks, tips and things I get?
They should.
I know that they have to,
Ethic forms?
so I know they have to list
Oh, wait a minute. I
particular
think they
kinds
do
of
actually.
investments.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what? I'm pretty sure they do, because when I had to fill out my form, there was a section for that of what investments you had, and I think even what stocks that they had. But if they don't, they definitely should.
Specific they get. I know the idea came to me when you look at what the federal government's actually doing right now. There's a bipartisan group of legislators that are moving legislation forward.
As they
that
should.
basically bans senators and
You think they'll ever
congressmen.
do that? That was the next question. The federal, they're doing this all the time, and they're becoming millionaires.
Yeah,
I've been on
that's
the
crap.
council for 14 or 13 years. I've never seen a stock offer from anybody. I think that's kind of, I don't think you need to put that in, honestly.
Hey, scumbag. You don't want transparency? Is that what's going on here?
The tax abatements and pilots, maybe, I don't know. We'll see, but I think the stock thing is kind of stupid, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Well, I think anytime, you're discussing whether or not to put something in there, it's important to err on the side of being more transparent instead of less transparent.
yeah.
We'll see. We'll put it together and throw it out there and see if anybody bites on it. Thank you.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow. Shocker. Democrats hate transparency.
I really don't have any particular questions at this time, but I do want to thank the chair of this committee for giving us somewhat of a pre-discussion. As she noted, this will be introduced on Monday night, and so as will the budget and as will a lot of other things. So I think to be able to meet as a quorum here tonight, to have a little bit more of an explanation. I think Councilor Bain maybe added a little bit something to it since the last time we discussed it is helpful. I had not thought tremendously about the stock piece. Councilor Bain and I had a conversation just sitting here prior to the beginning of the meeting, so I think that we'll have some good questions, and would be helpful maybe to take a look at how folks at the State House across the other side of Market Street evaluate theirs. But I think that the purpose and I think that the intent of this proposal is one that really all elected officials should strive for. Where it ends, we will obviously find out as we will be reviewing this next month, but I think it's a very worthy conversation, discussion, and I think that whatever will pass out of the committee from this will make our body and the city much stronger with respects to transparency. Thank you.
There we go. There we go. Well done.
And I want to thank Councilor Bain, who spearheaded this and brought it up. And we've had,
Well
like I
done.
said, great dialogue and discussion over the last few months, figuring out what is the goal of this transparency that we want and how do we meet that without burdening employers, our council staff with added work. So
It's their job. They're elected officials. That's part of their job, is being transparent with the public. If you don't want to be transparent, get the fuck out. Mascari. If you don't want to be transparent, then just leave. Drop out.
there comes right, a small burden with that by
Womp
needing to
womp.
do the form, but the return on investment, right, so that the impact is better for that transparency. We also wanted to make sure, again, that we weren't making it so tedious in a form or something that if we took, as counselors, if we took this form to our HR employer and they have, 10,000 employees and do all sorts of work with the city, that it would
Womp womp.
take an exorbitant amount of time for them. So I think
That's
that
part
we've
of their
come to a light lift as far as counselors, employers, but to do the best we can to be transparent. And next month, like Counselor Renee said, we will have our hearing, our meeting on this, which we will take public comment at that time. And if there's nothing else, the chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
We are done. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
You know, those cameras were only there because they thought they were going to talk about Thomas Cook. That's literally it. Josh Bain, well done. Really, anybody that has a problem with this should be investigated then, because you want transparency in government. And it's just gotten so out of control now with the amount of corruption, no matter if it's local, state, or federal, that we have no trust in it. And this is the first step. If anybody wants to have trust in the government, this would be the first step in it. And I applaud Josh Bain in spearheading this thing. I wish the rest of the counselors had the testicular fortitude to do the same thing. So, like Fiona said, there will be a full council meeting on Monday. I will be there for sure. So, any of you ass clowns out there that want to talk garbage on YouTube, you know where to find me. So, until next time.